Welcome to the Jason Edwards Show. A little tech glitch here, but I am your host, Jason Edwards. We weren't live earlier, so it's kind of funny. But I did a little intro introducing the great and talented actor, writer, director, coach, somebody that I really, really look up to, Mr. Gary Grubbs. Thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here.
So again, as I asked you before, so you grew up in Mississippi. And how does a young man from Mississippi find his way to Hollywood?
Well, it actually happened because my college roommate, I was a football player. He was from Mobile, Alabama, and he wanted to be an actor. And he would go over to the theater department and try out for plays. And then we were football players, so he said, "Don't tell any of the guys. You know, they'll think I'm a sissy."
Right.
So we would practice his parts, and he went for 4 years, and he never got a part. And like his final semester, he got a part as like a spear catcher in a play. I mean, it never worked for him.
Yeah.
I graduate, I go sell bulldozers, he becomes a football coach. 2 years later, I'm laying on the couch, I hear his voice, I look up, he's on Little House on the Prairie. So I know his family phone number, I call him, they give me his number, I call him up and I say, "Cooper, what are you doing?" He said, "Man, I'm out here. I got an agent. I got this part. I'm working with Angie Dickinson next week on Policewoman." And he said the one single thing he should have never said to me, "You need to get out here. This beats the heck out of work."
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it's not that I hadn't had a little inkling that when he was doing it back in college, I thought, I think I do this better than you. And my wife had been in acting, and I'd been to see her in plays. And so she was willing to go with me. I audited a couple of courses, jump in the car, sell the house, sell the dog,
wow,
sell the barn, and go.
Just like that.
Yeah, and the great thing was I got there when Jimmy Carter was president and Being Southern was in. So I just went out there and just said, "I'll be me, see how that works." Because I didn't have any coaching or experience. So,
right.
But it worked out.
And so how do you transition from just loading up the truck and moving to Beverly Hills, as they say, to getting your first part?
Well, I was a business guy selling bulldozers, so I knew to find someone that would help me. So what do? I look for a Mississippi casting director.
Okay.
A guy from Mississippi. I meet him at the Mississippi picnic, and I say, "Man, you got to get me started. You got to help me get started." And so he did. He had me in on a part, and the first part I was in, it was a movie called Dead Man's Curve, and I stood between Jan Dean and that's Jan and Dean were the two guys, between Mike Love and American Bandstand, Dick Clark.
Okay.
Standing between Mike Love and Dick Clark. You ready?
Yeah.
And I'm one of the sons of the pioneers singing, "Oh, come tumbling down." So I tell everybody in the world I'm on television. Yeah, they cut that part out.
You learn your lesson quick.
Yeah,
huh?
I learned my lesson quick. So he started me. He got me my first part, and he got me my second part. And from there, I took a lot of classes, and I started studying and started making it on my own.
Nice. So I know that we've talked about this in the past, but for the audience, you go out there, you said being Southern is in, but a lot of people do that, and then they get stuck in the Jethros and the Bubbas and all that. How did you create a career out of being the intelligent lawyer and the billionaire oil tycoon and those types of things? How did you differentiate yourself?
Well, I realized what you're saying early on, that Jethro and Ebb would be on the Beverly Hillbillies and they would be on some other show, and they're done. So as soon as I got an agent, I told my agent, "I don't play Billy Bob, I don't play Jethro, I don't play Ebb." You know, and I would turn down an audition because of the name of the character.
Wow.
Because I knew instinctively that I needed to be, a Southern lawyer. I needed to be a cop, FBI agent. I needed other parts besides the Southern character that they make fun of. Because as soon as they put you in that category, you limit your career. Mm-hmm. So I knew to do that, and that's the way I found to make it work.
Got it. Yeah, and you say that they kind of get pigeonholed in those categories. My first role was a guy named Bubba, which is like the opposite of what I am. But I saw, am I pigeonholed in the?
Yeah, you're through. No. I mean, no, because you don't have a Southern accent like that, and used to they had a lot of Southern shows. You realize there aren't.
Yeah,
they're not here anymore. They, there was BJ and the Bear and Smokey and the Bandit in Dallas, and and Dukes of Hazzard, all that. So there was places for me to go with my Southern accent.
Mm-hmm. So when you just land on those first few sets, are you starstruck, or do you feel right in the pocket? Do you feel like you
Well, you are a little starstruck, but the second thing I did was From Here to Eternity in a number of days, and it was a lot of action and shooting and running and jumping. So it's almost like you're a kid again, and you start getting used to the set and where the camera is, and so and then the next time you go, you think, okay, I got this, and I've always said it's okay if an actor is a little bit cocky and thinks he's good, because you get pushed down and pushed away and refused so much that you have to feel good about, I can do this, I can make this work, and my salesmanship helped me, be able to changing situations. So I adapted real quick.
That's interesting. And because I have a business background too, and I think it's really helped because you got to understand the business side of it too, probably even more then. You were getting in more rooms, talking to people, so it's...
Yeah, I knew how to get an get an appointment and get a part before I knew how to do the part.
Right.
I figured that process out. I knew how to talk to people, how to write then, not social media, but write notes. And I knew how to get on the lot when I wasn't supposed to be on the lot. I knew how to run into people. So I figured that process out, and I knew the business was important. I knew it was a business, and it helped me get started. There are a lot of great actors. I've been in class and see these phenomenal actors. They have no business sense.
Yeah.
I look at them and think, you're never going to work. You don't understand how to get the agent. You don't understand how to, meet the casting directors. And so it's half the business.
And in addition to that, especially now with social media, and it's just so easy is probably the wrong word, but there's so many actors. Are you seeing way more actors now than there were back when you were there?
I don't know. I can't tell, because you can't tell what an actor is anymore.
Right.
Social media has created a situation where people will send me their social media information to come to my class, and you would look at them and think they're a star.
Right.
From their photos and their resume and what all they've done and their little letters, and you get there and they've never done anything. So I can't tell. I know there were 3 channels when I started. There was no Fox. There was ABC, CBS, and NBC. And now what are they? 50, 60 channels. Mm-hmm. So I think there are more actors.
Yeah.
But there are more shows and less people watching each show. So they don't want to pay us as much. That's what happened to the pay. The pay scale has gone down in this business, and most businesses have been going up. It's been going down in acting because the advertiser says, we love the show, but we don't have many people watching it. Mm-hmm. So they won't pay for the advertising, and that's one of the problems we have as actors and agents negotiating more money.
Right. Now, we've talked about how you kind of got started, but when was there like an inflection point where you're like, boom, now I'm working consistently, or has it always been kind of a... It
just began to grow incrementally. 1 year, the first year I was in town, I got 2 parts, both on the same day, and I lost one of them. And then the second year, I got like 4 parts, and then like 8 parts. And then the more the casting directors knew me, and I had met with them and been in the room with them, I began to feel, okay, I can make this work. I have enough people calling me in for enough different kinds of things.
Right.
And then when I started testing for series, that I was going to be a regular on the series, I thought, okay, I'm here for the long haul. I can make a living doing this.
And then there was a point you told me about where you had multiple shows as a lawyer on the same day. Can you kind of tell that story?
Well, on the same day?
Well, not on the same day, but I thought like the same weekend they all came out or something. Or
well, there was a weekend that sort of, even looking back now, I think the highest rated movie in history, TV movie, was The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett.
Okay.
50 million people. That was on Friday night. On Saturday night was Fatal Vision, a miniseries, when they did 4-hour miniseries. The highest rated miniseries in history at that point. And I was on both of them. So I was on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, and the next day I went to the grocery store and everybody's talking to me. And I don't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that the world had just seen me.
It's not like social media now where you're seeing it on Facebook all day long. You're
trying to get on social media and get 5,000 people to follow you. We got 50 million people looking at you. And you're talking and and 2 dramatic shows. and 2 shows that were known nationally. Those stories were true stories. One of them was a book, and one of them was a national story where a lady, her husband's mistreating her, and he gets a little drunk and goes to sleep, and she pours gas on him and sets him on fire in the bed. And that's called the burning bed.
Okay.
So that started it. From there,
and
everybody knew me then in town. All the casting directors knew me then.
And didn't you say that, I don't know if it was true or just a story, but that, not from you, but just in general, that after that burning bed episode that some women actually carried that out, reenacted it?
Yes, absolutely. That night, the Friday night is a burning bed, and the next day, like 4 women across the country, I guess, who had been abused by their husbands, decides, okay, this is the way to do it, because Farrah Fawcett got away with it. Maybe I can.
Right.
So I'm sure they'd been abused, and there was a reason, but the television gave them the idea. The show gave them the idea.
I got you. So what is some advice that you have? I know that you teach actors, and we'll get into class stuff in a moment, but just people starting out, because you have so many people that want to be actors. Do you have some just general advice for people getting started?
Well, my general rule, the thing that I say is, if you want to be an actor, that's fine. But if you're going to be successful, it has to be the only thing you want to do. It has to be so much a part of you that every day you wake up and go, okay, how am I going to make it, and what am I going to do today? Because that's how difficult it is to get started, really to get started. And then to make it, it has to be your life's choice, because there's a lot of people who want to be actors, but the ones who really need it and it's part of who they are the ones that usually turn the corner and make it.
Yeah.
Now, some of the others do, but mostly it's those that are just dedicated and dying to make it work.
Right. And you've had a long career in Hollywood of working consistently. What do you see from those actors in Los Angeles that maybe you don't see locally, or just in general? Do you see that it's a full-time thing over there versus here, or is it?
No, they're in Los Angeles. Really. Yeah. And the parts are bigger, and the contacts are contacts to people who can give them bigger parts. And their children play Little League with the producer and director, and they go to church with the producer and director, and the cast, and the agent is friends with the casting director, and so on and so forth. So there's a connection of people in the town is the business, and they stick together, and they come up together, and just like they do here, in our classes, they're like tribes of people that work together. There's just not as much work, not as much money, not as much interesting parts here.
Right.
So it's just harder to sort of rise to the top here than it is there.
I got you. If you're just joining us, we're here with actor, writer, coach, and all-around awesome guy, Gary Grubbs. We got the wonderful Caroline that's checking the social media stuff. So if you have questions for Gary, let us know. I just realized my laptop isn't charging, so I'm going to grab the charger. We'll see if there's any questions and chat them in. I'm going to plug us up, and then we'll get back to some questions in just a sec. Hang tight.
You got questions? None?
No questions.
No questions.
People watching?
Are you watching?
I don't know.
Well, you're not much help.
I thought I was watching it.
Well, maybe there's questions on a different page.
Oh, yeah, there are questions.
Turn the volume down. There's a little delay, obviously. Yeah, turn the volume down.
Do you know Frank Gannon's story?
Do I know what?
Volume down, please. Volume down, please. Okay, and then we're going to fix this. And back. Boom. We're back in action. So, again, if you have questions for Gary, chat them in. We have somebody that's monitoring the questions, so the best ones that you have, we'll make sure that we ask him. Let's see here. I do want to ask you about something, because I was doing some research on the interview, and I pulled up, I remember that you said you were in a Pace Picante commercial, one of those famous ones. And I look on YouTube, and I find this clip, and it's a little grainy, a little small, and I'm like, doesn't sound like Gary, doesn't really look like him, but I think that's him, so I posted it. Come to find out, your wife said that wasn't actually you. So what's the story behind that?
Well, I go in and I get a call for a Pace Picante sauce commercial, and actually it was a regional commercial, and by Beatrice Foods. And from the time we make the commercial to the time they get ready to air is bought by someone, and it becomes a national company. So a local commercial becomes a national commercial.
Okay.
And in the commercial, I say, I'm the first one to ever say, this stuff's not made in
San Antonio.
New York City, that one.
Yeah. This stuff's not made in San Antonio. It's made in New York City. Well, that's not what I said in the commercial.
Okay.
I said, this stuff's not made in San Antonio. It's made in New Jersey. Well, they run the commercial. A guy calls the television station and says, I don't like the way you're making fun of New Jersey. and the guy at the station said, we don't have any control over those commercials. We're just saying you make paste picante sauce in the Southwest, in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, not New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I don't like that commercial. They run it again. And he calls up and says, you need to quit running that commercial. You're making fun of New Jersey. Long story short, calls the third time, says, you run that commercial again, I'm going to blow up your station.
Okay.
So I'm in L.A. They fly me to Nashville, and I change it. If you'll watch the commercial from new, and they cut, and I add New York City and take the word Jersey out. And so it becomes famous as, you can make fun of New York City or you can make fun of Los Angeles, who cares? But this guy didn't like the New Jersey. Then they call up and go, this commercial is going through the roof, it's tested so high, we love it. We want to make a series of them, and we want you two guys to do it.
Okay.
Well, the two guys, the other guy is on Murphy Brown as a bartender. He's making big money. So he wants big money to do the commercial. And I'm just sitting there going, a series of commercials? Everybody wants a series of commercials. This will set me. I mean, it really would. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, we don't get to do the commercial because this guy won't come off of his price. So what do? They cast a guy who looks like me because they like what I did. And they try to find a guy that sounds like me.
Right.
And they put him in the paste picante sauce commercials. So when you go back through your career, I mean, just now as I'm thinking about that, I'm mad. You know?
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was unbelievable. But I'm the first guy that said, this stuff's not made in San Antonio. It's made in New York City. So.
Got it.
Got it.
So that wasn't even you in the commercial.
It wasn't. No, I saw you put that up. That was not me. That was my lookalike.
That
was the guy that got my money.
Kind of like you.
So
yeah.
now I'm mad at you.
You're welcome. So one of my favorite movies that I've seen you in was JFK. I know that was a while back, but do you have any good memories of that, or was that an interesting one to work on?
Well, it was interesting because there were so many interesting people in there.
Yeah.
And we took so much time and effort to shoot it. And at the time, Kevin Costner was the star of that movie. And so it was a circus atmosphere. He had just won the Academy Award for Dances with Wolves. He was in the theater in Robin Hood, Prince of Tide,
right.
Prince of Thieves, whatever that one is. And so literally thousands of people were everywhere. It was all crowd control.
Yeah.
Because he was like the biggest thing on the planet at that moment. So that was really interesting. Oliver Stone is a crazy man, literally. And it was interesting to work with him and battle with him and try to outsmart him. And then there were so many people, and a lot of times the lines were like, okay, you say this line and you say that line, and then people are trying to add lines. You know what I mean? Trying to get in there. So it was a lot of fun. It was educational because we worked in Dallas and we came to New Orleans and stayed here 9 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a camera that comes out on a boom. That, you know what I mean? Those cameras
yeah.
have that everywhere. It's the first one we'd ever seen.
Wow.
Never seen one. And you would be acting, and all of a sudden here comes this arm over, and the camera comes right down in your face. You think, where did that come from?
Right.
You know.
And then a few years later, I don't know how long it was, you got the part on Will and Grace, and we'll jump around a little bit to some other credits that you have that I want to talk about. But the part on Will and Grace had an interesting story that I wanted you to tell about how you came about getting that part as a regular.
Well, you know what? As you start to think about this and look back, a lot of parts have a story behind them. You just didn't go in and read. I did a show called Boston Commons, and the producers of that show, the producer writers of that show, were the producer writers of Will and Grace.
Okay.
So a couple of months later, they called me and go, we're doing this pilot. We just need you to come do one day. It's not any money, but, so they call you at home. They put you in a show before. You don't say no. You say, absolutely. Where do you need me? He said, just come over and you'll rehearse one day. So I get over there, and it's Will and Grace. And they have a guy who's Will's boss. And this happens in pilots, in sitcom pilots. He's unable to make it funny. So they go, and he just can't seem to he can't get the humor they want him to get. And like 2 days before, the guy that's head of the network says, why don't you put Grubbs in there? He's funny. Mm-hmm. So I'm already on the set, I'm already rehearsing, I already know everybody. So they kind of change the part from a slick New York guy to a Southern guy who's in New York, kind of a Ted Turner guy. And so I go from being literally a walk-on part to a guest star, and then when they pick up the series, it tested so well, they said, okay, you got to put him in there. So then they put me in the series. And
now I hear it's coming back. I don't know if it's official, but if you guys out there can petition, you want to see, what was your name on it?
Harlan Polk.
Harlan Polk. And I saw an article someone posted. It was like, because you played a Southern lawyer so much, or a Texan so much, you were like ranked the top 10 Texas actors. Or
that was the weirdest thing. That was great too. That was a great surprise. Texas Magazine, Texas Monthly did a article, and they named their top 10 Texan actors. And of course, there's, Texas Walker Ranger, there's Dallas, Larry Hagman,
sure,
JR, and all those kind of guys, and different guys in Texas who had done a lot of work. And it comes and it says, my apologies to the rest of you Texans, but my 10th actor on this list is Gary Grubbs.
Wow.
Because he's played so many rich Texans that he sounds like a Texan. We believe he's a Texan, so he's awarded the 10th spot, and that was kind of exciting.
And then after that, I know you have a great story about being on the OC, which you will get into I don't want to ruin the punchline, so tell me how you got the part on the OC and kind of how that shaked out.
Okay, so I go to audition for the OC. And the character I'm reading for is Gordon Bullitt.
Yeah.
Had to go back and get his name. And I'm out there, and there's some pretty well-known actors going in ahead of me, and usually you can't hear the other actors, but I could literally hear them in the room. And I thought, okay, the only way I'm going to get this is go for the humor, because they're playing this thing straight. He's a businessman, he's a rich Texan, Gordon Bullitt. So I walk in the room, and I won't tell you who the other actors were, but they're much more well-known than I am. So I walk in and go, and my first line is, hello, I'm Gordon Bullitt. And so I say, hello, I'm Gordon Bullitt, and that's with a bang. Well, the whole room laughed. And then once I had them laughing, I kept them laughing. And then I got the part, and then the first episode, what does it say? Hello, I'm Gordon Bullitt, that's with a bang. So it became part of the character, and college kids were watching that show everywhere, and I couldn't go anywhere that people aren't saying, hey, Gordon, bang. So I shot the gun at everybody, and, everywhere I went for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Went to a basketball game one night, UCLA, USC, and I don't know, 2,000 kids were yelling bang at me, which was the only time I felt like, you know what, you're known for television all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah, I felt like it that night.
And I don't know if you've ever said this or I've just thought it, but kind of stepping back, I don't know what the timeline was, but you played Leonardo DiCaprio's father on Growing Pains, correct?
That's right.
Now, I think, I'm just going to say this, that you technically helped launch his career.
Not technically, literally.
Okay, literally.
He would have had no career without me.
Let's hear that.
You know what? He was just a kid running around, and you could hardly get him on the set. He's playing basketball. He seemed so unconcerned. And when his career took off, I was a little amazed. I thought, can he be that serious? To watch him now from where he was then, because he was like 16 or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting old. So it was great fun. And then I was really popular with teenage girls for like 2 years because, I'm Leonardo's dad. I'm Leo's dad. They don't know my name. They don't know my actor name. They just know I'm Leo's dad. And every now and then, I saw him last year. He doesn't know my name either, but
sure.
he calls me Pops.
Hey, Pops.
Hey,
nice.
Pops, how you doing? He doesn't know my name.
Yeah.
But it was great to see him.
And I think so, to add to that story a little from what I heard, is he was trying to get the movie with with De Niro.
Right.
I don't remember what the name. A Boy's Life, maybe.
Well, that's exactly right.
And it was like a contract thing, or they were going to let him out, but you had to be the one to come and take him away from the home that he was staying in growing pains, so that he could, contractually, be able to go do the movie.
I was a truck driver, so I took him with me. That took him off the show so he could go do a movie with De Niro. So, I'm responsible for his career.
That's what I was going for. Thank you.
Thank you for making it clear.
So we have a ton of stuff that I could cover as far as movies, and we'll probably bounce around a little bit. If you have questions, definitely chat them in. I'm seeing a bunch of you, so I'm going to get to those. Are you seeing those questions, Caroline, too? No? Okay. I don't know why, but that's okay. So I'll skim through these in a second, but I want to.
I mean, I see them, but there aren't any.
Oh, gotcha. It's more comments. Okay.
Yes.
That's all I needed.
Oh, okay.
Just a little clarity on it. I just see words. I can't really read it. Okay. So I want to shift a little bit just to some acting stuff, because I know that you're an acting coach here on the coast, and you teach classes all over, but mainly in the coast now. So what are some things that you see in class that let you know somebody's going to do well or not, or kind of what do you look for in students to say they're going to...
Well, you know what? You're there in class. Caroline's there in class. It's sort of undefinable, but you see it pretty quick. If there's one single thing, if I had to break it down into qualities, I'd say intelligence is first and sense of humor is second. There are intelligent actors who aren't good. There are actors with a sense of humor, but those two things seem to be prevalent in all that are good. Persistence, but the it factor that people talk about, it's called it because you can't define it, It's really interesting. Some people aren't that interesting as a person, and then you give them a scene and they light up in front of the camera or in front of an audience. So I don't know that I can say after a few weeks, when someone's in class, you can watch within 4 or 5 classes, you go, okay, they get it and they're going somewhere. Some people early on, like the first scene you give them, you think, okay, instinctively they understand the process. So from student to student, from actor to actor, it's really hard to define, but you'll know it when you see it, and we see it in class, don't we?
Yeah, and you've studied in LA, I'm sure, with several different teachers, seen very strict method style acting type coaches versus people that are a little looser. What do you see advantages or disadvantages of any of those, or do you what's your style?
Well, my style is that in today's world, acting is an extension of you. It's who you are. It's not creating a character where you can be somebody else. And I say that because 40 actors come in and read for a part, right? And it's their part of their personality and their intelligence and their sense of humor that is special about them. And you go, okay, that's interesting. Because it's written, and this is a character, and everybody should be the character. It's what you...
Sorry. Just lost our feed real quick, and we're back.
It's what you bring to the part.
Yeah.
And what you bring to the part is from you, and a lot of it is from your own pain, is from your own problems in life, so you show your heart, you show your what concerns you, and you think, oh, I want to see more of that. That's interesting. So I teach actors to show us a lot about themselves, as what part of the character blends in with what part of you are, and emphasize that. Don't try to find out what part of the character you're not. Find out what part of the character you are.
Mm-hmm. Now, with all this social media stuff nowadays, I know that you don't really get into that.
I don't know what I'm doing on this show.
Yeah, right. We're streaming live to people that...
What does that mean?
Exactly.
This is live?
Yeah. So obviously back in the day, it was a lot different because you were actually, majority of your meetings were in person, or I guess all of them were. You didn't do the video auditions and stuff like that, right?
No, exactly. Well, the social media thing is interesting because you can create a lot of smoke and mirrors about who you are and what you can do, and you can actually sometimes, and they've had problems with this, an actor can get with someone and work and have one good reading. Then they show up on the set and they can't do the part. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to be real careful with social media because it can help you, it can hurt you. If you think social media is who you are, then you get in trouble. And a lot of people do that. And a lot of people who aren't actors at all really do that. They do that in their life. They try to create a new person by being on social media. So I never have put a lot of stock in it, But I understand the business does. I understand why you need to be on Facebook and you need to be on Instagram. I lost a part one time because a person had a lot more social media quotient followers than I did, and that's part of it because they're trying to get an audience from those people.
Right. And this is a kind of a generalization of a few questions we're getting on social media. People that are starting a little later in life. I mean, I'm in my 30s, and even though I've done a lot of theater, I'm starting a little later than the traditional person. And there's obviously a lot of people that come to class that had careers and families and things, and now they're launching that stuff. What advice do you have? I mean, is there an age limit, so to speak, or like?
No, there's not an age limit, but the answer is the older you start, the harder it is.
Sure.
Because what happens is if you're 45 and a very fine actor and can play a doctor, lawyer, or whatever, they may be looking at another 20 actors who are 45 who have 30 or 40 credits, and that those credits give those producers and directors comfort. So for you to get the part with your 2 or 3 credits, you have to be outstanding. It's harder to get started the older you get.
Yeah.
And that's just common sense, and there's nothing you can do about it. Accept it and don't fight it, and know who you are and know what your category is, what your type is, and really go after that special niche that you might have.
And that kind of transitions to something that a guy named Chris Niddle asked earlier. If you had to do something besides acting, what would you do? And I think that kind of ties into people that are pursuing acting and trying to fill their time with other things. So.
Well, I literally before I left Mississippi, I went and audited acting classes, and then I went to the library and got a book on how you write a script, and I wrote a script before I ever left, and so the whole time I've been acting, I've been writing. That script that I wrote before I left, I sold it 16 years later.
Wow!
And I took it from a billboard in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It said "For Help," and those you dial FORHELP to turn in a drug pusher, and that's when drugs were just late 70s, and I changed it to Hotline, and I put it in the basement of the New Orleans City Hall, and 16 years later I sold it as a series for CBS.
Wow!
So I have, when you said what else I would do, I'd be a writer, I'd be a director. We okay?
Yep.
We're good.
We're good.
I'd be in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
I'd be in something creative, writing, directing, speaking, teaching. In that arena right there is where I fit.
And I think I wanted to piggyback on that with regards to you saying that people starting later in life, or really anybody, but especially those starting later in life, have to work even harder. But do you also see the value in them creating their own stuff and writing if they're able to?
Well, that's the world today because of the ability to the cameras the fact that we're doing what we're doing right now that you couldn't do 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And the fact that you can buy a camera and some editing equipment and some lights, and literally 4 or 5 people, actors, can get together and go make a movie. And that was unheard of. And that's the future in some ways. Shorts are the future, people making their own stuff, and you will learn an extraordinary amount about being an actor by editing your own work, by shooting your own work, and you're fulfilled and you're doing something instead of waiting. I mean, the waiting is what drives the actor crazy.
Sure.
Waiting for the appointment or not reading for what they want to. Don't wait. Get some people together and go make a movie. A bad movie's okay. Just go make a movie. You don't have to show it to anybody.
Yeah, just to kind of get those.
Some people don't follow that rule. They put
show
it on social media.
Right. Let's see. I got some good questions here.
Question about safety.
About what?
Want to talk about safety on the set?
Yeah. What was that?
Well,
Frank Cannon's story
Well-
from Neil Brimlow. Is that one you can talk about?
Well, yes, because the set is a dangerous place. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of stunts and explosions, and there's a lot of action. And Neil's talking about I was in The Return of Frank Cannon. You probably don't even remember Frank Cannon. I'm in The Return of Frank Cannon, literally in the early '80s, and they pull an airplane into a truck, and they have the front of the truck hood rigged where it flies off and when the airplane hits it, boom, the hood flies off and this thing sets on fire. So I have been knocked out, or I'm a deputy and I've been shot and I'm laying out there. And so they said, okay, Grubbs, you go get over there. We're going to do so and so and so. And I said, well, where's the hood of that truck going? And they said, oh, we're just blowing it off of there. And I said, yeah, but where's it going to land? Right. They said, well, it won't go that far. I said, well, how do you know? He said, well, it's too heavy. And he said, just get right out there. And I said, I'm not getting out there. And he said, what? I said, here's my clothes. Put some stuff in this. I'll go put on my street clothes. Put it out there, and put my deputy clothes, and lay it right out there. They blew that hood off of that truck, and it went up in the air, and it landed right on that dummy. And I mean, it was high and hard, and when it hit, everybody went, and it was an instinct. It was just an instinct, and I'm lucky I had that instinct, and I don't know if it saved my life, but that was early in my career, and I have been sometimes you go, you want to do this stunt? And I go, no, I don't want to do that stunt. If you watch it, you got a stunt man. Yeah. So you have to, and I've done some stunts, I fought a bear, and my favorite one is I'm walking through the woods and on Davy Crockett, and a snake bites me, and so they have this snake coiled. They have a bunch of them, trained snakes. They're not trained, and they shoot them with diesel fuel. And you shoot the snake with diesel fuel, and it'll bite the first thing, anything close to it. So I'm supposed to walk by, and they shoot him with diesel fuel, and he bites my leg, Well, this guy's doing it. I'm just watching him. He's walking by, and he bites his leg. He's walking by, he bites his leg. And I sit down at lunch, and I go, I appreciate you doing that stunt for me. How many times that snake bites you? He said, 6. I said, you okay? And he said, yeah. And he reaches down, and he's got a wooden leg. And I had no idea. You learn as you go, and that's what he does. That's his job.
He's a professional snake get bitter.
Oh, no. I mean, it's amazing. As we start talking about this, you start going back and reliving some of the things that you learn. And it was fun. It was hilarious. I didn't know. Everybody else on the set knew, but I didn't know what he was doing. But
got a couple comments from students here. Lydia says, don't have a question but a comment. I feel extremely fortunate to be studying under Gary. He's an amazing teacher, extremely encouraging mentor. Thank you, Mr. Gary.
Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, a lot of good questions here. So we're going to wrap up in a little bit, but I just wanted to say, if you have any final questions for Gary, chat them in. Something that's really good about an acting career, a writing career, just living in Hollywood. Should you move to Hollywood? Those types of things. Let's see. Was there ever anyone that you walked into set and were just like in total, just awe, starstruck?
Well, I've been really fortunate, lucky, fortunate, blessed. My third part, they told me, hurry up and get dressed. I replaced a guy and get to the set. Hank's ready to shoot the scene. I don't know who Hank is, and I get my clothes on and I arrest this guy. I got 2 lines, and I walk in and it's Henry Fonda, and what an icon, Academy Award winner in all those movies, and he's at the end of his career. I'm at the beginning of my career, and there I walk in, I can hardly say anything. Yeah. Because it's Henry Fonda, and I've had the privilege of working, and then a couple of movies later, I'm working with Elizabeth Taylor. So those people, and Tommy Lee Jones, and well, like I said, Kevin Costner, and the various people. The most embarrassing thing I did on a set was I was working with Jack Nicholson in a thing called The Border, and there were like 5 or 6 of us Border Patrol guys, and he would say, okay, we need to say this line, do this, and so he calls me, and he said, he's got a phone call. Just walk by him and say, hey, Charlie, got a phone call. And no rehearsal or anything. So I walk right by Jack Nicholson, camera rolling, and I go, hey, Jack, got a phone call. So I called Jack Nicholson by his name.
Was he fun to work with?
He was great because he comes up to me and he said, you may want to call me Charlie. He said, yeah, you call me Jack. I didn't even know I did it, So everybody made fun of me the rest of the movie. But, he was great to work. He's one of the guys. He hangs out. He eats at the table with everybody. He has everybody to his house. In that movie, he had everyone go get their footprint at this boot place, and he made every single person on the set a pair of boots. Wow. Handmade boots to fit with That's El Paso and Rio Grande running down the side of the boot.
And then you told me a story, I guess you told the class a story about, was it Gunsmoke? Was that the one you auditioned for?
No, that's before my time.
No, not Gunsmoke. What was the one you were working with where you didn't think you did good in the audition? You slapped down and said, hire someone? I don't know why I thought it was Gunsmoke.
Well, you're talking about a bad audition?
Yeah.
And being yourself? I loved the Rockford Files. And I wanted to do the Rockford Files. And for whatever, I did like the last Charlie's Angels, the last Waltons, and now it's the last Rockford Files. I mean, I'm the kiss of death. I'm on your show, it's gone.
Don't say that.
So here I go in to read for the Rockford Files, and I just don't get nervous, you know, because I think I know what I'm doing, I know what I want to do, and I go in and I start reading the part, and I mess it up, and I really mess it up. I say the wrong thing or whatever. I said, okay, that's bad. Let's do it again. All right, here we go. And so I start over, and I do it again. I mess it up. I said, all right, guys, one more time. I mess it up. I said, okay, find you somebody else. This one's not for me. Put the script down.
And walk out.
Walk out. When I get home, they call for wardrobe because they wanted me. You know what I mean? That's what I talk about going to. You don't go to an audition. One of the things I teach, you don't go to an audition to get a part. You go to an audition to show them who you are.
Right.
Because that's what they're going to buy. And that was me, just being honest and direct, and the part wasn't that big, it wasn't that important, but it worked out that way, and I don't recommend you do that. That's not the way to get a part, but that time it worked for me.
And speaking of being you, didn't you tell a story of a time where there was a casting call that said a Gary Grubbs type?
You know, they have the breakdown, and they say, you know, a Tommy Lee Jones type, a James Garner, a whatever type. And then I had been in L.A. long enough and played attorneys long enough in Lifetime movies that they said they wanted a Gary Grubbs type. And so my agent calls them and says, what about Gary Grubbs? And they said, no, we want a younger Gary Grubbs. And I think the part was 42 and I was 44 or something. I don't know. But, I mean, it was a real honor to have my name in a breakdown to say they wanted Gary Grubbs type. They wanted a Southern lawyer is what they wanted.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, the rejection of that just overall, I mean, I'm sure as awesome as your career has been with 170 plus credits and still going strong, how do you deal with that many years of, I'm sure there's, for everyone that you booked, there's hundreds that you didn't.
No, it would, I don't know that I could if I didn't book us, you know.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a career where I booked a number of them, where I felt like I was getting a percentage of them and I was doing good work and making a living, but that rejection is the hardest part. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And when I said it doesn't hurt to be confident as an actor, I always thought, what a loss, what a mistake they made by not hiring me, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and then, you know, they're bad instead of mine. And I taught myself somehow after a couple of years to go, you know what, I'm going to audition and forget it. Just forget about it. Go to the next one, always looking for the next one. So you're not sitting around, and you've all been there, sitting around waiting to hear whether you're going to get this part or not, and it'll drive you crazy. So I could literally have an audition. They call me 2 weeks later and say, you got the part, and I go, what was the part? What did I audition for? I do that today. I just audition and forget them.
Yeah. Because
after you walk out the door, you're done.
Now, you told me a story. This is for the actors out there.
Y'all need to come to class. You get to hear these stories. You
yeah,
know how many stories he knows?
Well, we'll get into the dates and times and all that stuff in a second, but just want to wrap up here pretty shortly. But where was I going with that? Oh, you said auditioning. I mean, obviously it's changed now to primarily video in a lot of locations, but back then you've told us that there were times where you'd be literally standing in a room with all of your competition, reading one at a time, standing right next to each other.
Right. Yeah, it's completely changed. And sometimes you would get down and they would pair you up. You know, there'd be a part for a couple, and there'd be 3 girls and 3 guys they like. Well, they say, okay, you can go. Okay, you come in, and all of a sudden you're in the room with 6 people. Well, you're reading with all 3 girls, and the other 3 guys are reading, and so you're hearing them audition. You're watching them audition, and there's a room full of people. You know, it used to be the network people and the studio people and the producers of the show and the director and the writer, and all of a sudden there's 8, 10, 12 people in the room. So it was there again. It's not about competition. It's about showing them who you are, you know, showing them how you're different, showing them how you would do it. Because if you paid attention and go, I'm going to do it like he did it, you're in trouble. And we talk about that in class. A lot of people go, oh, I saw this movie. I'm going to do it just like they did in the movie. I go, no, you're not. You're not going to do it like that. You think you are, but you're not that person. Do it your way. Make it better. Show us who you are. And the auditioning was a different process because a lot of times it was like being in an acting class. There's a room full of people, and you have to fill up that room with your energy and show them who you are. And you want to walk out of the room and they go, he's going to do something. You know what I mean? He's got some confidence. He's not afraid. You know, he's taking chances. So at the end of the audition, you wanted to show them that, yeah, I can do the part. And that's what I was best at. That's why I had a career.
Yeah, I think that was important. You said that it was the confidence, and also you had the ability to make jokes and find some humor in the scripts to
Right.
make it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I did sitcoms early on. A lot of guys didn't. You know, I did Golden Girls, and I put spaghetti on John Ritter's head, and I Three's Company and Fonzie on the Happy. I did all of those, and I did it because my sense of humor helped me get dramatic parts.
Right.
Because I would do the drama, and then I would say something funny leaving the room, you know, and they think, okay, this guy's going to be fun. He's going to be okay. So that was kind of part of my process.
Now, with class, your style, we'll kind of wrap up with talking about class, how your classes run, the night, days and times and things. But I know that your class is typically a cold reading style. Is there a reason you chose that over like more in-depth scene study and things like that?
Well, if you can take a script and 15 or 20 minutes with a partner, decide how to do it, forget about learning to do the part. You can easily do that.
Right.
If you can learn it in 15 minutes and you got 15 hours or 5 days, so the trick is to do the audition. So all I'm doing is teaching people in my class to take material, make quick decisions, get up with confidence and do it. If you not anybody, but the longer you have the material, that's what's going to happen after you get the part. Most of the people in my classes are trying to get parts.
Right.
So I'm teaching them to get parts. I'm not teaching them to do parts. But if they can perform and do the reading, they can certainly do the part when they get it. So it's just my way of saying, my way of sort of helping them get started. Because people in this market are trying to get started. And well, you've seen that in class. You watch people come in and go, oh, just on that cold reading, he's got that part down. He can do that part. So that's why I use cold reading instead of scene study.
And it's so interesting, too, when you see people do scenes in class that, you know, I go to multiple classes often, and you'll see two different people do it totally opposite ways, but they both work, or sometimes they don't work.
Right.
But it's interesting to see how, you know, no person is doing it identically to somebody else, but it still works.
Yeah. Well, that's if you've had the privilege of being on the other side of the desk when you're auditioning, and you're already in a show, and they're trying to audition you a wife, and you watch 40 different women. You go, oh my goodness, there was 40 different people, 40 different characters. It's one character, but they all played it a different way. And literally, you can go, and it's one of those 3 or 4. There'll be 10 people in the room, and you know which ones it is. You know immediately it's one of those 3 or 4. And then you go to the network, and they decide. But it's just how you stand out. That's why I say, I mean, they're doing that in L.A. today. That's why I say you need to be able to take a piece of material and learn it and make it happen.
Right. With regards to classes, and then we'll wrap up with 1 or 2 final questions. So if you have any final really good questions, chat them in, and I'll make sure our lovely Caroline, moderator here, is going to let us know what they are if we can. So what kind of what's your kind of class schedule? Where do you teach? What times? Things like that?
Well, it varies some. My steady class is every Wednesday night on the Gulf Coast in Long Beach, 7 to 11, at a beautiful home there. If you've been there, if you hadn't, you need to come see the home if you don't come see me. And then I'm in Mobile on Thursday night, 7 to 11 at the Ashbury Suites, and in New Orleans on Tuesday nights over at Second Line Stages. That's not every week. Some weeks, like this week, I'm headed to L.A. to read for a part, so I won't be I'm having a class tonight and no other classes. So what happens is you get on my class list, and you just send me an email to Gary Grubbs Class at Gmail, and I put you on the list. So you will get an email every week, probably 2 emails of when class is. Sometimes it changes around. Sometimes it'll be just the coast in New Orleans. Sometimes it's just the coast in Mobile. You know, sometimes it changes nights, but mostly you can pretty well count on it 3 out of 4 times being when you think it is.
Yeah, and I highly recommend it. I mean, I go multiple times a week if I can, and it's just good to be around people, especially that cold reading, like you said, where I get a lot of value out of it just because we're learning how to quickly understand a scene and quickly perform it, and also how to just get confidence in front of multiple different groups of people. I think that's helped me a lot walking into auditions where there may be some people from the studio, or there may be the writer or director, people just being confident enough to walk into any room and know that I can do a decent job. So to wrap up, Vicky has a good question. It says, in your career, what are you most proud of? And also, what do you hope to accomplish in the future of your career?
Oh, I'm just starting.
Yeah?
You know, all actors feel like that. Your best part is ahead of you. You know, I'm going to read I won't talk about it, but I'm going to L.A. to read for a part that could be a good part in a series. Maybe that's where it is. Strangely enough, the favorite thing that I've done is a play. It's called As the Crow Flies. It's a play that I wrote, and it was an equity play, and it still runs at various theaters today. And I love being on stage because there's no director there, there's no producer there, there's no writer there. It's you and the other characters in the audience, and it's flowing. It's free flowing, moment by moment. And the audience will literally tell you what they want to hear, and they will tell you what they think is funny, and within a minute or two you have it, and it's you and the audience, and that's different from film. You are such a collaborator in film, you know, but on stage it's a lot more about you, and I enjoy that's the most satisfying thing I do is material that I've written on stage.
And then, so moving forward, do you plan on doing more writing, or do you have some scripts that you're trying to get?
Well, I have a script. I have a meeting in L.A. this week on a script called The Prophet Motive. I've actually sold that script before. It's the second coming of Christ as a comedy. I have a producer who's interested in it, who wants to take it to Universal, and we're trying to get a rewrite for him. So I'm meeting on that, and that is like an audition. It doesn't mean a lot. It's just foot in the door. So we'll see where it goes. And I don't talk about a lot of things I do because people go, well, what happened to this? And you go, I don't even know what happened to it.
It's probably
what did happen to it?
Years of just things going into black holes and not knowing. And
they just go in the black hole, or the studio says no, or the producer finds something he likes better, so you just keep doing it. Yeah.
Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We're going to get the Gary Grubbs bump, like being on Oprah, I guess. Ratings are going to go through the roof. But I really, really do appreciate it. I mean, I could talk for hours about the other credits, and maybe you can come back someday and we'll talk some more. But I really, really appreciate it. And everybody come out to Gary's class. The email's there. I'll chat out the link to.
Tonight.
There's a class tonight in New Orleans, depending on when you're watching this. It's Tuesday, February 7th, I believe. So if it's another time, then just get on the email list and you'll get notifications about that. But thanks again, Gary. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.